We are recording. We started. So it's our first.
Yeah, first video like this. Thank you for coming.
Yeah. I'm intruding in your channel, right? Cool.
So my friend Tim is joining us today. So he's a well-established photographer in Japan. You do mainly portraits and fashion for celebrities and
almost
magazines.
no fashion, but yeah, usually when it's tied up with celebrities in some way.
So I found your work just before I shoot for Rolling Stone magazine.
Oh yeah.
So when you shot Hyde.
Yeah, for the cover of Rolling Stone. Yeah.
I saw the cover and I was like, oh, who did this? I have to check because I really want to shoot Hyde. So I checked your work and I was like, oh, nice, good work.
Rolling Stone was a long time coming for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was afraid that by the time I was ready to, like, career-wise shoot for a cover of Rolling Stone, the Rolling Stone is not gonna exist here in Japan.
Yeah.
Hopefully they're still doing strong, and yeah, I just recently actually shot again for them. So
Okay, cool. Really.
yeah,
Good.
it was a big moment for me shooting for Rolling Stone here in Japan.
It's big. It's not big as in the US, but it's still big. It's something, you know.
Especially for me when I started as here in Japan, when I was assisting for a Japanese photographer just 3 months. Actually, it was my only assisting job as an assistant here. So for a photographer, and he was shooting for cover for Rolling Stone.
Okay.
And I remember I was asking him. After the shoot is over and everything, I brought my book, my portfolio to him, and I was asking him that I want to go to Rolling Stone to show them my picture, and he told me, no, don't come to the place. I'm working. So this is one of the
Okay.
it's a maybe it's a little bit too fast to talk about that, but anyway, yeah, he was he felt like, I don't know, like I was his rival, even though I was assisting him, you know.
Okay.
So after he told me, I said, okay, you know what, bye, sayonara, I'm not gonna do it anymore.
Yeah.
And so, like, long time, and I did the cover just after he did the
After he
previous
did.
one.
Okay,
So
wow.
for me it was like, look who's here. But it took 7 years. 7 years, man.
Okay. Yeah, that's amazing. You made it like this. So today we decided to talk about how to make it in Japan as a photographer, which is really important, I think, because many photographers want to work at first, get some jobs when they move here, and it's really difficult to step up because there are many photographers, and especially if you want to do commercial work or magazines, editorials and stuff. So there is different levels, I think.
Yeah.
So today we're gonna explain how to make it, how to enter the first step in this world in Japan. So
Japan is hot now. I feel like everybody wants to have a piece of the market, and we want to but it's the market here is very specific, very kind of I think not absolutely, maybe like 180 degrees opposite of what you can expect, like in America or in Europe, I think.
Yeah.
Like, what about you? You worked in France, right? Like,
yeah. So
was it apparent that it's so different at the
Yeah,
first
for me, yes. So I was working in Paris for 3 years before coming here, and I didn't have that much client as I have right now. Not the same level as well. So I moved here, and then I contacted many people, many magazines, companies who needed photos and everything, and just maybe I sent 100 emails or something like this, and just one company replied to me. So I decided to bet on this client. Like, I have to do as many work as possible with them, so I can find other clients, you know. So that's how I started to shoot one celebrity by the network I've built. So it's important to say that before moving here, I came 4 or 5 times the previous year to start to build my network, my relationships.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
When
so
I
it was
found,
like a process for you, right?
Yeah. So when I found my first client, I decided to move here. So yeah, and once I moved here, I got my first client. Everything is going well, slowly, but surely. And after that, I started to So I shot 3 or 4 covers for the same magazines.
Ah, exactly. You were lucky, I think.
I am.
Because to get that as a first client.
I am. I contacted many of them.
Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah.
Like, I got a reply from them, and I was really happy and lucky. Maybe.
Did you wrote in English?
Yeah. Because it's in
this is one of the. So. This is the first element.
Yeah, it's difficult also because not many English magazines here, or not many English magazines that,
or not even many editors or art directors who can reply you in English or understand English. And even if you wrote them in English, probably they're not gonna go through translating in and checking out. Okay, what's it about? Yeah. So I think the first maybe level is you need to at least have some kind of a basic Japanese skill, language skills to, especially when it comes to celebrities. But I've been here for 10 years and it changed a lot. So like 10 years before, if you don't speak any Japanese, there is no way you will get a job unless it's like a big commercial and you have a big name. As an upcomer or a newcomer, there is no way you will get some celebrity quality time. And gradually it started to change, and even now I see that in some type of magazines that usually never used foreign photographers, now you can see sometimes from time to time like a foreign name as a photographer.
Yeah.
But though sometimes I'm like doubtful, okay, maybe there is like a Japanese guy using a foreign name, as a pen name or something.
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, but I think it's definitely changed a lot. So I think if you're trying to come here to work, now is the time. With the Olympics and people try to, we Japanese, like also magazine editors and the industry itself start to become more, how do you say, more open, and comparing to what it was before, even like 10 years. It changed a lot, so and more opportunity. And I think you were one of the examples when you can come, you just mail, and because there's like some kind of a specific in how you even approach magazines. So usually you have to take an appointment by phone, because mail, when you mail it for the first time, it's not the best way, or it's not considered like the most. It's not maybe polite, but not like the most straightforward way.
Okay.
So you have to make an appointment through telephone. And if you got one, then you have to bring your portfolio and you have to explain about yourself. You have to have a story. And even when you call for the first time, like immediately they can ask you, somebody introduced you, or have you been assisting any photographer that we know? And if you don't have this kind of like enter through this, then for sure they're gonna be, even if they like your work, for sure they're gonna prefer someone who's coming up from a photographer
they know
or from introduction. So, but this is one of the specifics of a Japanese way. The introduction builds a lot of trust, and especially when in celebrity work, where everybody's so kind of on their toes. And everybody cares about how the relationships are built. They care a lot. So I remember when I started, like the first question or like the first reaction I got is that you're a foreigner, so you don't know how to deal,
how to work
with how like not how to work with a magazine, but how to work with Japanese celebrities, because it's a very specific kind of a thing. So, but talking about I think there is like 2 or 3 ways. One, you already have a build up like a value name that you have a fame, or you have some kind of a name in the fashion industry
from outside,
or even from outside, and then you come here and you approach it through like model agency by making some work there, or you go straight to fashion magazine and show them the work. It's easier to enter a fashion industry rather than portrait, because now you need to work with people or actors, and so you need to understand like how the relationship build on the set, or how to work with them. And I think it's maybe common even for outside from here, because celebrities sometimes can be a little bit complicated, or the agencies can be a little bit complicated to work with. And then there is another way is you go to a studio or you go as an assistant to some photographer, and then you build some kind of a trustworthy relationship because editors see you on the set.
Yeah.
And usually this is the way a lot of people go through that way here in Japan. It takes from 5 to 10 years for some to you go for 3 or 4 years into studio. After that you do in location assistant, as we say, so you becoming a photographer assistant, and through that you start to build relationship with editors, magazines, art directors, and then they give you a chance. So yeah, it's a little bit, and it's always, even if you came here with fame or you came through introduction, you have to expect that there is always a ladder up. It's not like you trying to build it. You always have to experience going like, and they're gonna test you. Like in my experience, they always test you. So even I think with the magazine that you started with recently, even for you for Rolling Stone, they will never give you immediately like a cover or something. They're gonna test you or something. You're gonna do a back cover, or you're gonna do a special feature, or maybe just one page, so that they can feel you or check you. And then if you, he's okay, then now you can.
Yeah, that's how it went for me for Rolling Stone at first. I got side pages. I shot two singles for them.
Yeah.
Inside pages and back cover, and so there is anything to
be careful
about when it comes to Japanese magazines and companies.
I'm interested in more in your perspective, because you're kind of a new here in this industry. Do you feel like what kind of differences that like comes in mind, or like you recognize first, this is so much different from, for example, France,
for example, just the fact that they own the rights, or that I cannot use my images. This was the biggest shock for me, because I didn't know that. So so basically the magazine, apparently, so you told me when you shoot for them, they're on the rights.
Yes, so
of the images.
how thing works is you have to be prepared for that if you want to work here. So if you work with a celebrity, it's a little bit different for fashion, but even then it kind of a similar, is that magazine owns the right, half of the rights, then the agency of a celebrity owns half of the right for the picture, and somewhere in there is your rights for this picture. So it applies, like if the agency wants to use the picture, they ask your permission, or the magazine wants to use your picture, ask your permission. But it's the same applies to you. You cannot use freely any image, even if you want to show it on your homepage. Usually you have to have a permission, and it was like that for me until like maybe 3 or 4 years ago. If I wanted to put a picture of my previous work with some kind of a famous celebrity, I had to ask through magazine to get a permission from the agency. But it changed a lot recently, because now it's like people realize, okay, but there is no other way. You have to put it on Instagram. You have to put it on homepage to promote yourself, because portfolio is not enough. You have to show it. You have to, because internet presence become much more important, and even for celebrities it's the same. So it changed a lot. It become much more easier, but still I think we are way far away from what you can expect from working, for example, in America, where I think photography has much more rights, especially when you read that like some photographers sued an actress or an actor for using the picture. It's almost unbelievable. And it's absolutely different culture here. So you have to be prepared for this kind of thing.
You have to. I wasn't prepared. Now I know, because
you knew it. You learned it the hard way.
But still, I'm glad that I've learned it recently, because maybe I keep going like I was doing, and it was not good for this country. Now I know. I'm more careful with this. But it was a big shock to know that you can now use your own images like you want. So now I understand. But if you want to come to Japan and shoot famous people here, you have to be prepared. So
I think one of the biggest specifics here is that all the relationship are from down to up. It's like vertical relationship.
What do you mean, like?
So you know that there is always like elder
okay.
or more
How to
experienced.
say?
I'm not sure how it's English. We say it in Japan, senpai, kohai, or so there is always this kind of a respect. You have to respect this kind of a relationship, and even for photographers. So for example, if I we call it like a debut, if you have your first job in a magazine or like a proper job, so you now become officially a photographer.
Yeah.
So it's like it's your debut. For example, if I debut like 10 years prior to these days, and all the photographers that come after me, they immediately become my kohai, or my I don't know the word for in English. So they become like my younger brothers, or I don't know,
Like Padawan? Something like
Padawan,
this?
yeah, something like that. So even they are more, for example, commercially successful. If we meet somewhere, or if they have to use like proper language when they talk to me. Yeah, and even like some newcomer, I can say, okay, go buy me some cigarettes, and sometimes they have to, because and it's kind of a sometimes like why, and I came all through this. I experienced all through the studio, because when I came here, I wanted to go like all the way Japanese way. Otherwise, I could not, like, how do you say, respect. I wanted to know all the industry from down to up, everything. So I even now remember, like, when I first came to studio here to work as an assistant, and this is for everybody who wants to work here. It became a little bit much more easier to work, but I remember my senpai, my elderly, he told me I cannot smoke unless someone told me you can smoke for during our rest hours in the studio.
Wow. So you were assistant?
I was assistant in a kind of a famous studio. Actually, at that time, it was the most famous studio here in Tokyo, and I was the first European working there. We are good with time. Yeah. So I was the first European working in a photo studio, and my elderly immediately told me, okay, when there is like a room where the assistants can rest during even the shoot, or sometime when you can go out. You cannot sit unless he says you can sit and rest.
Oh my gosh.
So, and I literally, my first like elderly who was like taking care of me, looking after me, he was like a really big position in the studio. So he was like the first chief assistant in the studio. So everybody was under him. So he told me, so I'm pretty good with everything. So you can, but watch out for other guys.
Okay.
And so immediately the next day, there is another senpai working with me in the studio, and I'm like standing for 10 hours straight in a studio, because he's not telling me. Even I was trying to go to the toilet, he said, where are you going? I didn't give you permission.
Oh my gosh.
And then the first 3 months is like in the army, man. It's like I washed cars from the clients that come into the studio. Even in winter, it doesn't care. I wash toilets.
Wow.
And my elderly comes and he checks out if I missed the spot. Like literally, he comes and checks if I missed the spot. And he says, oh, you see there is like a water splash on the mirror. Clean it up. And then I even made like rice, some kind of a food. So you have to prepare rice. Usually assistants bring their stuff or go to a supermarket, but white rice is provided by a studio, so you have to make it. And then there is clothes that all assistants, like we have like t-shirts or something, and so you have to wash that. So first 3 months, and after that, when all the work in the studio finished, you have to ask for elderly to teach you lighting equipment, and you have an exam in the first 3 months that you have to pass. Even now, I think it's common for many students. You have to pass an exam after the first 3 months, where you know all the names for the lighting equipments. So where you have to know all the name for the lighting equipment. For example, if he says, okay, build me this set, and you have to do it. At my time, when I was, it was like more than 11 years, I don't know, 12 years ago, I completed. But we had an exam for film change, so you have to made an exam for film change for Hasselblad, I don't know, Mamiya.
Okay.
and you have to do it under some kind of a time limit. So when you pass that exam, this is the first time when you enter the studio, like studio premises, as a third.
Third?
Yeah, so there is a first assistant, second assistant, and there is a third assistant.
Okay.
So as I told, in Japan there is always like this kind of a I don't know if it's my pronunciation right, hierarchy. So there's like a ladder. And so you spend like a half a year to become a second, and if you're really good, maybe after 1 year you become the first. And that's when you start to build relationship with photographers or even people on the set. Until that, you're just a second, you know. You do what you've been told. You bring the staff, you help with the light.
Okay.
And the common rule is that the second is the third, they enter the studio like 1 or 2 hours before, and you build a set, you prepare everything, you make everything clean. And then the first one comes and he makes the last check or last changes if they have received by photographer. And even now, it's true for me. I have like 2 assistants. So one is the first, one is the second. So the second is always like 15 minutes prior. He's like always like half an hour waiting in the studio, so that if I arrive early, he's gonna be there to put this stuff out from the car. He's gonna be there. And my like first, he's a little bit like a loose cannon, but so he usually comes like 5 minutes prior. Sometimes
he's gonna see the video, so.
Yeah, he's gonna see the work. Yeah, so yeah, but he's cool. Yeah, and so what happens is that when I enter the studio, I don't even tell the studio assistants what to do. My first one gives all the, and then I'll just check. So it's always this kind of, and it's the same with everything. Like, for example, if I work for a magazine, for a Roland Stone, I work for example, a little bit longer. So I'm become kind of a elderly for all the other photographers that come after that into the magazine, and I don't care, but editors sometimes care. So they won't give a cover for a newcomer. But it changed a lot recently, so, and I hope it will change more, because I think it doesn't matter how, it's all about the sense and your building relationship skill. It much more important. If you're really good at photography, you don't have to go through it. But I think it's a great experience, and you have to experience in some way to just understand how it works, because still a lot of old school editors are directors who kind of protect this kind of rules.
I think it's good in a way. Like, it's really interesting because I never did like the way you learned. Like, I never been assistant in a studio or something. The only time I've been assisting, it was in Paris. I was assistant for a Chinese photographer who shot covers for Vogue China and stuff like this in Paris. Just a couple of times I've assisted him, so I learned a lot, but I wish I could be assistant in a studio to learn like from zero to what I know now. But so yeah, I've been freelance for a long time, and I just shot by myself for 9 years. And then I moved here, and I found my way to work like as natural light and stuff like this. But when I meet clients, magazines especially, they often want studio. Right? They want to shoot in studio. They want to shoot colors. But my style is more black and white. So I have to do it because I need these covers for my portfolio, you know. So it's really interesting how now I have assistants, but only when I shot in studio. I have my assistant like all the time, but when I shoot in studio, I didn't know there are already assistants in the studio. So I kind of learned recently by being a photographer, like shooting in studio, but it's really recent for me.
Here in Japan, like, it's all based around the studios, because usually you rent your equipment through the studios. And you even call for location assistance through the studios. And it's really important to build relationship with the studios. So, and there are different rules. For example, if you bring a certain amount to studio, like, for example, amount of money you bring to the studio. So if you reach, for example, I don't know, after you brought them like $2,000 or $3,000, they start to trust you with, for example, if you want to rent it for private work, they say, oh, you can do that because and we make it cheaper for you because you already bring us a lot of. And the same if you want to rent equipment, they can say, oh yeah, you can rent our equipment because we already know you, we trust you.
Okay.
And more importantly, it becomes easier because there is a different system of payment, like you already know, like the payment is usually a little bit later.
Yes,
so sometimes you rent an equipment, but you can pay it after like 2 or 3 months after you rent it. And unless you build a trusting relationship, you have to pay it on the spot, which can be very complicated for if you have a really big shoot. So this trusting relationship becomes very important.
Same here. I didn't know before that you can rent directly the equipment through the studio. So I was renting at a rental place, then I bring everything in the studio, and then the assistant said, you can rent here. I was like, okay, good to know.
And they usually, so the system is like, they usually have 2 assistants that go to you. We need to...
I just check.
Oh, really?
We have 4 minutes.
Yeah, so we have to explain. So we're shooting with a 10-minute limit record camera, which is fun, so we have to cut it. So if our talk looks a little bit strange,
only cut it's normal.
So what I did is, it was the same because even though I was I was assisting in the studios that was strictly like doing like fashion, even though in fashion there is like called like a red letter magazine. So the magazines that have red letters as the titles that is red. I don't know. You don't ask me why it's that. It's called the red letters style. So it's very specific. It always like very beauty-like lighting, even for fashion. So
I didn't know that.
You don't see any other type of lighting setup. So after I finished it, and I wanted to do the same. Of course, I was not very experienced. So what I did, I found the guy who was much more experienced as an assistant. And I learned from him. I just showed him, okay, how I'm doing, how we can do that. And he said, you know what, this and that. And even still now that my assistant now is very, he worked on a lot of different shoots. So sometimes he surprised me because I have like, okay, we do that. And he says, no, there is much more better, much more cleaner way to do that. And it's always like, oh, it's a great experience. So assistants can be, it's very important.
Helpful, yeah, definitely. Even myself, because like I said, I shoot more outside at the natural light. But sometimes when I'm in studio, my assistant is like, oh no, if you do this, it would be better, like with the flashlights. So I'm learning through my assistant. It's really good. So I advise to all the photographers to not be like too selfish. No, how to say? Like I am the photographer. You the assistant. Don't tell me what to do. For me, you have to open. Like all the members of the team on set, we equal. Even the assistants, I treat them like another photographer. Like we all are the same level. So it's really important, and I think it's better for me, for them, and for the atmosphere of the shoot. So treat everyone equally. Yeah, it's really important for me. Even if you want to be successful, if you are an asshole, you cannot. I mean, you can be successful, but you have to be really, really strong.
Yeah, so that's another thing. So it becomes really important how you behave on the set here in Japan.
Exactly.
So,
very, very important.
It's fun. So sometimes assistants become an scapegoat.
What do you mean?
So if something going wrong on the set, you blame the assistant. This is the old school way, but I really hate it.
Same.
Yeah, because I experienced that. I really experienced that when the photographer is doing something going wrong, or he just doesn't like the mood with the client or something, he starts to yell on the assistant, and you're like becoming like a scapegoat.
Yeah, I see. Okay.
And even this like rivalry, like you have to pass some kind of this relationship tests before he will introduce you to the magazine. I think it's all a bullshit. And so what I did is that I asked all my assistants to make a business card.
Okay.
And on my shoots, after that, they built some kind of a relationship so that editors see them when they become a little bit more trustworthy. I asked on the set to change the business cards. Well, so I tried to make the road as how to say short for them as possible. And actually it worked for three of them. The fourth one is a little bit, but I think it's his personal. But usually it works out well, and even my assistant now, he already got a job, first job, which is almost, because you have to like assist for 2-3 years, and then you have to like it's always a long road here in Japan. You have to be prepared. So another advice is like build a really strong portfolio and be prepared that when it actually comes to a job, that it won't matter. They will ask you some kind of a different specifics. So I think it's what's different here in Japan is that you bring a portfolio to them and they say, oh, you shoot in black and white, we like your work, how about we do something together? And the first job you come and they bring you an image board that looks absolutely different from what you shoot, and it's like, what?
I thought they mistook with another photographer when they asked me colors.
Are you sure you want to work with me? But this is how sometimes it works here in Japan, that they choose you for one reason and then you ask you to do absolutely different.
So maybe to start,
you have to be prepared. Like I see, like in America, it's like they care about what is your style, how do you find your style. For sure, you have to have some kind of a style, but when you start to work here in Japan, you have to be prepared. They're gonna ask you things that go maybe absolute opposite way from what your style. And there are two ways. You can accept it and in a positive way, and okay, I'm gonna build experience, I'm gonna learn through it, and I'm gonna be more, be more wide in my tastes. And
you have to think long term, I think. If you just want this gig,
or you say, okay, you know what, I'm gonna stick to my style and I'm gonna wait. But then you have to wait for when your style becomes, relatable or more demanded. And it takes time. Even for me, I remember when I first come to the famous art director, he saw my work. He says, you know what, I like your work, but this work, this kind of a taste was popular 5 years ago. So there is no job for you now. Either way, you change your style or you wait till it comes back. And I waited.
Okay.
I waited. I tried, of course, I think I shifted a little bit towards more cleaner look that was popular at that time, but I waited. And through that time I was doing private shoots, like test shoots and I waited, and now it's becoming back, and now I literally feel like my way of shooting becomes more relatable.
Okay, I see.
But it takes time, and my general advice, I think it doesn't matter for wherever you are, is try to be patient.
You have to.
And you have to be patient, and you have to believe in yourself that your day will come. But it depends on the time. Nobody knows when it comes. And through the time of your waiting, you have to just, I don't like the word grind. I think polish is a better way. You have to polish yourself, and there is always a way you can evolve in your photography. And maybe it's actually a good when you go in the opposite way, or you try, because even if you don't like it, you try and you learn from it. I learned a lot from doing things that I don't like here in Japan, but I was really stressful about that. And what's here, especially, I don't say, maybe it's common to everywhere, you have to build some kind of a name value in the industry before you have a say in photography. So another specifics here in Japan is that you almost have no say about your selection of your work, how you select your work, what work goes into magazine or for a client, until you have some kind of a value on the market or a trust relationship.
Have to be bigger.
And especially it comes to work celebrities, almost 90% you don't have a say.
Just give us the images.
And even the magazine doesn't have a say. Usually the agency of a celebrity chooses the okay photography, and among them that they said, okay, you for the first time choose what you want to do. It's really, really frustrating. It's really, really complicated. But then again, it overcomes with name value. It overcomes with experience or building relationship with actually agencies. but it's really pain in the ass to work. I think if you really want to do it here, you have to be prepared for this kind of.
Yeah, you have to, and like you said, you have to be patient, but also you have to know what to do. You need a plan to achieve your goals, I think, because like once you're here, if you want to work with magazines or celebrities, you need to have a good portfolio already. So when I moved here, I have a good consistent work.
Yeah, you already had like kind of a really high quality work.
Yeah, something enough for them to work with me. You know, so it's not like I started photography here, or I would not do this at this moment. But patience, hard work, and I think you need a plan, definitely.
Yeah.
Like since I got my first client, I knew I'm gonna shoot these celebrities so I can show my work to other magazines and clients. So that I think thinking on the long term and have a plan is great. Be prepared.
Yeah. My first probably advice will be find the first one.
That's it.
That will change a lot. Yeah. So it was for me like my first job was for some miraculous way that one of the editors said, you know what, I'm gonna give you a shoot with, at that time was the most famous idol girl, like singer, dancer, and because I did this shoot, it entered in my portfolio. After that, when I bring it to the magazine, they already, oh, you shoot her, then you can do the work, and then it opens for me so many doors. It's funny how it works. So that's what they care about. They care about, okay, but we like your work, but can you actually do it?
It's important to have a good work to show them, and you need to shoot. Like I said, I built a network before moving here, so I met one actor at an event, and after I asked him if he was okay to shoot for this magazine, he was okay, and he's really famous here. So I knew after him, if I show my portfolio to another client, they will be okay, or they will give me more attention to my work and possibly working with me.
It becomes much more easier after you do that. Yeah, for sure.
So I'd like to talk about the fact that magazines don't pay so much.
Oh yeah.
Don't pay well. And so if you want to work with magazine, you need a good portfolio. But magazine doesn't pay well, I think, everywhere in the world. Maybe Vogue pays well or something, but smaller, not so much. So what pays the best here, I think it's commercial work.
Oh yeah.
For me.
For sure.
But I think for you too. But to make commercial work, you need to shoot magazines or celebrities.
Yes, for sure. So this is very interesting. So working for magazines or working actually doing editorial work again builds this trust. It's much more easier to get the commercial work if you have editorial work.
For magazines or famous people.
And again, it builds relationship with agencies, with managers of the celebrities, and a lot of times you can get a commercial work because some of the actors or actresses decide, I want to work with him, and you get invited through that. So a lot of people do magazines not for the money, but just for this like credit. But to tell you the truth, it was always like that, and so to work for a magazine means to get a good payment. You have to have a lot of pages in the magazines.
Pages.
You have to have a lot of pages. So for me, I have usually now I receive a lot of pages, so it's not so bad. But in the first years I couldn't. It didn't. So even I did the first cover. I said, okay, I'm gonna. But it's not so much, And
okay.
So So first time it always hard.
It's interesting.
But then you grind through it and you hope for other kind of jobs, like maybe commercial jobs. But even now, a lot of people expect you for commercial work. The value of commercial work becomes less because of the internet, and so it kind of levels now. So, and there are still some magazines, especially the magazines that are in the convenience store.
Yeah.
They pay well.
Okay, I didn't shot for one of those yet.
But
so-
if your magazine goes into like a bookstore,
yeah,
then
Not so
maybe
much.
not so much.
Not so
Unless it's like a big foreign brand like GQ or like a
Yeah, I think
Rolling
so.
Stone or something.
maybe. But it's interesting because for me, like the number of pages didn't matter
Yeah.
till now. So maybe if the magazine is selling in the convenience store, I think the number of pages matters.
And even inside the magazine, there are pages that tied up with like branding, with commercial work. So even if celebrity, it's tied up with like some brand that is represented through clothes he wears, or maybe the promotion of his new movie or something. So sometimes it can be different.
Yeah.
If not, then yeah, immediately the payment for the page becomes much more less. Even though if you have a month, like you have 10 pages, and they pay you this much, and then you have 2 pages, but because it's a tie-up with a different brand,
Yeah,
you
it's
can
a
get
brand
immediately
special,
banned.
that's
So
special.
it's hard to figure out, but yeah, you just grind through it, you know. You work hard and hope that the day will come, you know, when you have because to get actually really bigger commercial work, like how to say, like billboard level,
Yeah.
it's absolutely different. Maybe it's a talk for a different kind of.
We will do another video about this.
Yeah.
Maybe. I didn't do like this kind of job yet. Have you?
Yeah, I did few,
Okay.
but not much yet. But I did few, yeah.
Interesting.
And it was like, wow, I get so much. Wow, you know, it's so much different. Yeah,
That's the ultimate goal for photographers, I think.
yeah,
the
yes, that's
commercial,
where
uh,
the money is. But I think it's everywhere the same. You get, but the same that you do it for money, or at least for me, I'm not really very strictly like commercially goal oriented. I know I tried to, after like 10 years work, I tried to build like my own lane or like my
Yeah.
own relationship, and I want to build like my own place in this industry, and maybe try something new, especially for Japan now. I think it's a little bit like a changing state. It's transforming now, and it's for that I think it's a good time to be here, because you actually can affect in how the industry changes now here in Japan. So it's interesting to be in the middle of it, and now with Olympics it's so crazy now, you know.
Yeah, so I'm lucky the Olympics
Yeah.
are here because so I could work for like Nike, Adidas, or many brands like
But
this.
for sure, I want to tell, like, my biggest advice is that Japanese industry really weak for success outside of Japan.
Yeah,
So
yeah, it is.
it's much more easier to get a job, even small one, for example, for foreign magazines outside, and then you bring this work here, and you says, you know what, I work for this magazine outside. It immediately opened a lot of doors
Yeah, of
for
course,
you.
of course.
They're really weak to this kind of a thing. They
Which is
want to
normal.
be-
I understand
yeah.
that. I understand.
But then you have to be ready that they're gonna ask you crazy stuff that is
Yeah.
not related maybe to your style. But yeah, it's a way.
Yeah, so here, so I plan to shoot more bigger celebrities and everything, but I know if I go to the US, they will not care about the people I shot here, because
Yeah.
like Japanese people are not well known outside of the country.
Yeah.
So like you said, when you come to Japan with like, for example, you shot, I don't know, Brad Pitt or
Yeah.
someone at this level, you come here, you can do everything you want.
Yeah. Much more
Basically,
easy.
yeah.
Gonna be, yeah.
So that's why I plan also to work in the US. I think it's important to not stay only here.
Yeah.
I mean, for the career. So, and also I'd like to talk about the language barrier.
Okay.
Like, you told me, because Tim speaks almost perfectly Japanese.
Yeah. It took me
So-
some time, but yeah, now I can write, speak fluently. Yeah.
Okay, so I hope I have your level. But for the business, is it good to speak that much, or?
Yeah, it's important, especially in the beginning, and maybe when you start to build like really high level clients, because even the way how you compose your emails becomes very important, and there are a lot of rules in how you use, because when they look at you as a foreigner, maybe yeah, it's okay, but then when at some level they expect you to know some kind of rules in the industry, they expect you to know, and then when you like messed up, some people he's a foreigner, it's okay, and they treat it okay. So that's a big thing. A lot of foreigners, they come here, Japanese people so polite, they're so open to foreigners. Yeah, because they don't expect you much to know. But when you expect you to know, and there are some situations, especially when the big work involved, they expect you to know the rules of relationship. They expect you to know how to behave on the set, or if some kind of a trouble or some kind of a thing happens, they expect you to know how to deal with it. And even sometimes for me now, I ask advice from some other friends or something. Okay, so I'm in this kind of a state of relationship. Okay, how should I compose my mail to get on the next stage? But I think it become much more easier. So maybe if you enter the market, they know that you don't speak well, maybe they start to care less. But there definitely will be points where, even on the set, where some celebrities, some actors, they don't care that you're a foreigner, and they don't care. They expect you that you know the rules. They expect you that you're gonna use a proper language on the set towards them, and they expect you that. That can be very especially when it become really big, famous. I remember on the set I'm not gonna name I remember on the set that I was shooting really, really big television celebrity. They give me a paper with rules of what words I can use and not use, just in case, because I was foreigner.
That's
that
amazing.
Can use and said, but to tell you the truth, I almost ignored it, because my editor says, you know what, ignore it. You're already fluent enough, and just use. We ask you to, so that you can get a maybe closer relationship with him because of that. So but I got the paper, like what kind of words I can use on the set when he's present,
I never heard of that. Good.
It actually happened 2 times, I remember.
Wow.
So it can be sometimes really frustrating. So you have to know. I can talk about this, but it's gonna be really long. But usually, my general advice: be polite. Know that it's not even though it may seem like you're equal. There is no equals here. They're always vertical relationship, and even it may appear that it's equal. When it comes to big commercial work, when it comes to working with big celebrities, there is no equality. There is always a ladder up, and then on the set, after the shoot, and when it even comes to how you deal with the final product of this. So that's why it can be sometimes really frustrating to work here. I know a lot of foreigners that why we have to go through that, and they go away. But it can be complicated. But you just have to be like, how to say, you have to get prepared that sometimes your ego is not so important.
So far I've been lucky. Like, when you shoot celebrities or well-known people, you have not so much time to shoot them. So my goal is to. So I already know my photos will be good enough. Usually they are. So my goal is to connect with the talent. In this such short time, right? So my goal is to connect with them, so we have a good affinity, good connection, so they will be okay to work with me for another project, for a personal project or something. So I try to not taking care of this hierarchy thing. So I try to stay being polite, and the team is usually shocked because we're laughing, and they're not used to this. I think many foreign photographers, when they're on set and shooting famous people here, they adapt to the Japanese culture, being really polite, everything. But I try to keep this foreign thing.
Openness, more straightforward.
Exactly. So.
I think you have to use it to your advantage, being a foreigner here. But
that's what I try to do.
And you have to be prepared that you always be a foreigner here. There is no way to absolutely become. They always. But
of course.
You just use it to your advantage. You know how to. But at the same time, if you know all the rules, it's much more easier, and at times of need, it will be at your, it will can save you from like trouble or
Yeah, I think so.
help you. Yeah, for
So,
sure.
I
So
try
maybe
to-
next time we have a talk, I think we have to talk about how to work with people in front of your camera, including celebrities or just in general. How about
Yeah, that would be interesting. Yeah.
we'd make it for a second talk where we don't have a 10-minute limit.
Yeah. Hopefully.
Okay,
We'll
so
see.
I hope it was interesting for
Yeah.
everybody.
So I hope you like it, and thank you for
No,
agreeing
thank
to
you.
this
Yeah,
talk. That was cool.
it was my idea. So
Yeah, that was so cool. So sometimes we meet usually in a cafe and we just having talk, and so he gave me a lot of advice because he's here for more longer than me, so it's really good. You're my senpai.
okay.
Senpai.
Yeah.
But we keep this friend thing. So yeah, hope you liked it. There will be probably another one. I hope so.
Yeah.
Uh,
See you next one. Right?
Yeah, I don't like to say like
See you
subscribe
next
to
time. Subscribe to the channel. No, you don't say it. Just if you like it, subscribe. If you don't, just
Yeah, I hope it gave you a lot of value for your
yeah.
upcoming projects, and if you plan to move here or something like this. So yeah, see you next time.
See you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Bye.
Peace.